G'day, Luke.
Tom.
Landers. Mate, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Yeah,
What the hell are you doing in Sydney? I feel like it's been a while. It's hard to get you up here these days.
It's wet out there. It's too wet here, man.
It's very wet, isn't it? Yeah. Sunny Sydney.
Yeah, not for me.
Hey, this is pretty cool. We're matching.
Matchy, look at this.
Look at
Posh and Bex.
You said that before now. Posh or Bex?
Posh. I'll be
Yeah.
Posh. You can be Bex.
I'll be
All right?
Bex. I'm fine with that. I had a pretty good right cross in my early days.
Yeah,
Played
yeah,
right back.
yeah.
And I feel like the Posh thing is diving into some deeper waters there.
Yeah, I just like it.
Yeah. Want a glass of Chardonnay? Or a splash anyway?
I'll take a
Yeah,
taste.
look at that. Heading from here to the airport to head back home to the Yarra.
Back to the Yarra.
What's going on?
Well, pruning tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, get into it. Get started. Yep.
That's at obviously at the farm. That's
Yeah,
down.
our place. So, yeah, ready to go.
When you so your place, for those who don't know, so obviously getting working with a couple of vineyards, mainly the Denton vineyard for these wines,
Yep.
which you've worked with for a long time. But your place being Sparkletown,
Yeah.
up in the Yea Valley there, where there's no Chardonnay to be seen. It's just Nebbiolo.
Just Nebbiolo. So it's 4 acres in of Nebbiolo. So we'll prune that and hopefully next year get some wine.
Before the birds get to it.
Before the bird, wouldn't have to net it. Yeah, got to buy some nets.
Nets the dog. We'll get to the Neb in a second because Neb's what I think most people will think of when they think of Luke Lambert. But Chardonnay, I've been a massive fan of your Chardonnay since the beginning, mate, because I think they've managed to straddle that kind of line of minerality and purity, but also, flavour.
Yeah.
But in a light frame, and the wine's looking great.
I like where we've landed with it. It's been probably the wine that's changed the most over the last 10 years, I think.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But I think now when we're picking, how we're making it and the farming is right. So it's kind of settled into what's in the glass now.
Because the old site at the Tibooburra vineyard up in the Upper Yarra there was much colder, obviously, than where you're getting from.
Cooler site. Yeah. And completely different soil. So focusing in on Denton and granite. And as I said, the farming changes that have been made there.
What have you changed?
Well, it went from, I don't want to say conventional, farming practices that did include herbicide, a fairly firm spray program.
Yeah.
And also you're looking at an older vineyard now that hadn't really had anything put back into the soil. So all that was changed. The soil was opened, was fed with organic compost, and then, trying to eliminate herbicide. So,
Yeah, right.
big change.
And what does that do, in your opinion, to the wines, over a 3-5 year kind of period?
It's immediately visual. Like next season, we saw a happier vine. It was amazing. And I'd seen, of course, we've all seen vineyards that have run well and organic or biodynamic or sprinklings of both, and they look healthy. But this had gone from just an environment and a canopy that had started to look tired and hungry and thirsty all the time to just vivid green and just like a relaxed vine and canopy quite quickly.
And that translates then into grapes, into wine.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
It's a hard one to pin down, but you just see more life in the wine, hey?
Yeah, life.
What does that
energy,
mean?
yeah.
Like energy, life, you know it when you see it kind of thing. And that showed up slowly. But when we get to this vintage in particular, include 22 as well, we certainly saw that in the glass. So you taste it, you smell it, and you go, it's got more depth. There's more layers there.
Yeah.
The wine has more interest, and it sounds weird, but it tastes better for you kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that, for me, is life. Like if you're smelling, tasting something, like if it's a bloody good bit of stone fruit or not, you know the difference, everyone does.
Oh,
and
I totally know what you mean.
That rings through.
And you see it in like acidity, but in a natural energy and acidity in the grapes that you can taste in a lot of these great, Australian wines, that you have all that ripeness that you get naturally in our sun, but with this energy and zestiness. And it is hard to articulate, but you know it when you taste it.
When you see it, yeah. And then just in the winery, the wines have never been hard to make because we keep it simple.
Mate,
but
you do fuck all the wine.
Someone asked
The laziest winemaker I've ever met.
Someone asked me the other day how much of my year is in the winery. I had to think about it. I was like, God, it could be 5%. I don't know. As far as total days works. But
When we came and saw you a year ago, it's like, all right, here's the shed. There's a couple of tanks. There's a barrel room. The barrel room just has 6 fruiter in it. And that's it.
Yeah.
And you were much more focused on the jamming room with the drum kit, the ping pong table.
That's the workroom. Yeah.
Ping pong table, which we didn't actually get time to give it a bash.
And
And the cheese
dartboard.
and the cheese collection.
Oh, my mixed slicer and cheese.
You used to have your importer's license, the cheese importer's license.
Yes, yeah, we got a wholesale account. Yeah, that's a very important part of our life.
How much of the profit and loss statement is?
I always said, family's like a blessing and the best thing in my life, and like, but a very close second is having a wholesale cheese account. So yeah, that's a gift for life. Yeah.
That was the biggest wheel of cheese I've ever sent to you.
I
It's probably
can't
just
remember.
breakfast.
A bit foggy about your trip down there. I can't really recall anything.
Less said about that.
Yeah.
But it was
No, I know we had fun.
we had a great time. The highlight for me was the next day when your Japanese
I'd
importers rocked up,
forgotten. Yeah,
and we were still sitting at the front by the fire.
yeah.
Very
I think
dusty.
I was in my Trekkie decks, and I looked like I'd slept under a bridge. And they'd
there
rocked
with him,
in.
and then
Yeah.
Wade runs in like with a blue or Barocca kind of drink or something. Like, hey, look, have this.
Oh, it's making my hands are clammy just thinking about it. And they were very professional and lovely and forgiving, but I bet they were wondering who they were doing business.
They didn't send another order.
They were wondering who they were doing business with at that point.
No, it was great fun. Great to connect with a bunch of the Yarra Valley.
That was cool, man. It's always good to see you guys. You guys have since day one supported us. So
Oh, man, love the wines. They have, been really great to get to know you and Rosalind and support a great small family business. But what's actually in the glass as well just really speaks to us because there's a purity in the wines. They speak of a place.
Yeah,
they're delicious. They have those spicy kind of layers. Talking about Shiraz Syrah now, that I just love. To me, this is what Australian Syrah, could and should taste like.
That's very nice to hear. I'm lucky. I get to make my own wine, and I get to make the wine that I like, has a style and what I think, I don't. That sounds like foolish.
You're the only winery in the Yarra Valley not making Pinot for a start.
Yeah.
So it's what it is. It is just what you like.
I guess that's
what
exactly
do you
right. I like the rustic perfume varieties, and I like Nebbiolo foremost. But the other thing that I think hits similar spots for rusticity and perfume can be Syrah made in this style. So when it's left to show its angles and not filled with new oak or even put in small oak, off a site that's granitic, I think you get to see like the proper DNA.
What does the granite do to Syrah?
I reckon in this case you can actually taste and smell the granite in this. So first of all, let's get textural. So sandy granite. So there's topsoil there, but not much. But sandy granite, lighter soils make lighter wine. More perfume wine, more vibrant acidity, I think. The second thing is I think they are kind of, I think it's Phil Lobley's term, flavour rocks. So that you can actually taste the soil in granitic soils, I think. And in this case, it's like a fresh carbon, fireworks sort of smell, which I really like.
There's a real coolness to the fruit too. Like the fruit feels fully ripe and full of flavour. But it's the same thing we talked about with the Chardonnay. There's an energy and a purity there that you feel like you're tasting grapes. You don't feel like you're tasting oak.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you're drinking what we would traditionally think of an Australian Shiraz. It just feels like a health drink, like what you said before. It has that feeling to it. But then sometimes, and I've seen other wines from the Yarra like this in other parts of Australia where the wines then look a bit green and a bit mean, and they still have to be delicious. And this, I don't know how you do it, but you just manage to kind of get that balance just right.
I think that we've learnt a lot. This is the 20th Shiraz we've made out of the Yarra.
Yeah, right.
And I think if we were to be sitting down in front of the 10th version we'd made, to be honest, I think they would have looked quite green and a bit, certainly less life, but a bit, the balance was poor, I reckon. And we've learned a lot, particularly over the last 5 years, and changed a lot with this wine in where you're still using the whole bunches because I think that's important, but crushing the berries and getting everything we can out of the skin. So shorter, quicker ferments.
Yeah, right.
So still including stalks, but really trying to drag everything we can out of the skins. Rosalind does all the pejaging, foot stomping, and that's her job and a crucial one.
Yeah.
Because it happens quick, and she's in there 3 times a day. Get the fruit into the wine, and not hang into the stalks too long. Let's get in the press and get in the tank, let it settle.
Yeah, okay. So there's not much whole berry component.
We don't want to see a whole berry. No.
Yeah, interesting.
That's probably the biggest change. If we were to go back 10 years, we were all about whole berries and carbonic, but it's not necessary. And what I think is necessary, just speaking for me, but that perfume is inherent in Yarra wines, particularly off granite. So what we actually need is a bit more fruit, and a bit more skin tannin, and that's only achieved by squashing berries and getting in there and getting it out of there.
Yeah, right.
Get in there, rob the bank, get out.
In a few days, like you said, then you can get back to the ping pong.
Yeah, back to the ping pong and
back to the cheese.
So it's nice to. I mean, I like it when someone says, highlights the purity, because that I think is really important for us and a focus.
Yeah.
And if I can slide that across to you and say, Tom, that's 23 off granite, and you can see the when and the where. Okay, it's 23. That makes sense because that was the vintage. That's a reflection of it, and it's also a reflection of the vineyard. Then shit,
that's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Mate, I'm conscious you've got a plane to catch, so this wasn't the plan, but we've opened a bottle of Nebbiolo because any excuse for me to take home a bottle of Neb I'll fight Wade for this for the weekend. And would love to have a look at the 2022 Neb. I'll give you a decent glass there. So Nebbiolo is the passion. What is it about Nebbiolo that is so special to you?
Just loved it. From first getting into wine and sort of knowing a bit about Australian wine on a very basic level, and then all of a sudden, beginning to drink European wines and then discovering Nebbiolo and tasting that. And it was just, one of those moments you have in life where you go, wow, that's my thing. I like that. And digging,
so when was that? Roughly?
I really can't remember. I wish I had a great story about the first bottle and whatever. I don't have one. Make one up on the spot. No. But I just I love the shape of the wine. I love the tannin that can be a finer version like this, the high acid, but just the perfume and the savouriness. So it wasn't so fruit sweet and primary as a lot of the Australian wines that had sort of, been introduced into the wine world by drinking. It was just hitting different spots. And for me, it was just a wonderful way to enjoy food. Like, it's an obvious no-brainer. It's a food wine, everyone says it, but it just makes food taste better like no other variety, I reckon.
So when you, at this undefined moment when you fell in love with Nebbiolo, and you came back, so you were already making wine in the Yarra at that point?
No. That that predates me going to uni and having a job in the industry at all. Yeah.
Okay. It
would have been when I was living in London after school. Yeah.
So is it Neb that took you to the Yarra?
I think it was at that point what I wanted to focus on, but it just seemed impossible because there's very few Nebbiolos in the country. There's the
you made wine in Heathcote, of course, as well.
The first fruits was sourced from Heathcote because that was all that was available. But prior to that, we'd made Syrah, but the goal was always to make Nebbiolo and eventually get into the Yarra and eventually buy a farm and just plant that. But the first step was to make a Nebbiolo, and that was 05. So it's come a long way.
05.
But working with and having the opportunity to work with the Denton family and work with them and getting the Nebbiolo in there and for a period of time make their wines.
So were you there when they planted Nebbiolo? Was that?
Yes, from 07, we were involved in grafting it in at that point. So that was a wonderful opportunity. Like, I'll always add in for that, for them saying, sure, let's try. Well, here's an acre, let's see what's possible. And then, be able to make their wines initially. Yeah. And for a number of years and take up the fruit and make it for us as well. Again, a blessing. And to get now to, fast forward to here to 22 where, we've learnt so much and that vineyard's been expanded. There's now, I think, 6 acres of Nebbiolo there, 6 different clones, 7 different clones, I should say. And a vineyard that's now no longer infant or adolescent. It's quite settled and the canopy's balanced and the fruit is now, has much more depth. Add in the farming changes and stuff, and I'm really happy and proud of where we got to, but there's still a long way to go.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful Nebbiolo, and what I love about this is it has the same purity and energy that you see in all of your wines. Obviously, it speaks to the variety, but it's very different to Piedmont Nebbiolo as well. Like the tannin is finer. It has a brightness. Doesn't quite the same rusticity you might see some of those wines. Yeah. To me, maybe looks a little bit more like Valtellina or something. Yeah. It's it's your style.
Yeah. Well, it's the vineyard style. Yeah. I guess in making it as much as we make it, we're completely wedded to being an old large oak, and the should be wild fermented and unfiltered. So, it's not necessarily made as much as it's just kind of, put through the winery, I suppose, as gently as we can. But the freshness and purity here in 22, it's almost a reverse improvement in that we've made all these changes in the wines. The vineyard and the wine has come a long way, but then it's become a quite fruity wine in its youth. So I know that will transition into and become the variety more and more.
Nebbiolo is amazing how it just changes like that, isn't it?
It does do and it would be lovely if we were in a position where we could hold that in food for another year and another year in bottle and then bring it to you.
Shitloads more crudo, mate. Bring me the crudo Nebbiolo. Sell bucket loads of it.
So it's cool, but it's a real waiting game, and now we've made enough of them that we can revisit the early ones. And I know that looking at this wine now, it's vastly better than the wines that had come before it, but it really needs at least 5, probably 8, maybe even 12 years to really blossom and become the variety. Because in the youth, they can look a bit weird and sweet, particularly when just,
What vintage did you bring to the party last year? That was a bit older, wasn't it?
We had 3 magnums of, what did we have?
17 was there?
15, 14, 15, 16, did we?
Yeah, so that was great.
So the 15 was, the cool year, much like 22 was 15. Yeah.
Sorry, mate. Yeah. Sparkletown. So as you said, the goal was always to plant your own farm in the Yarra or thereabouts and plant Nebbiolo. Talk to us about the vineyard, where the name came from.
Yeah, the family came up with the name. My daughter and Ros and I were in the car. We'd been kind of travelling around the state trying to find our property, for years and years before that. I'd been driving around planting imaginary vineyards and just thinking what was possible, what was realistic. And it's a site that I'd visited before, but then we all revisited a couple of years after I'd first seen it. It was still on the market. We went there and before we kind of got in, Sparkletown was named and that's it. That's the one shot. So there's 36 acres there. We've only planted 4 acres. It was mapped out to be a 5-acre vineyard, and at the moment it's 4. But I'm adamant it won't be bigger than 5 because I can do everything, control everything. It's still a couple of litres of wine in theory once it's up and running, and we've planted the beginnings of an olive grove, so I never get greedy. And when the bank says you need to plant more, I can't because there's an olive grove there. But you know what I mean?
And the goal, and then just
control it all.
Just Nebbiolo, right? And
that's it. One wine, man. Like
would these that they'd retire?
I always said that they would. I'd like to spend however many more vintages I get to make wine, focusing on that 4 or 5 acres and making our wine. Having done so many and been lucky enough to be included in making other people's wine for a long time and our own wines, including Crudo, I know how hard it is for me at least, and harder each year, to do all those things and do them well and well enough where I'm not missing anything. So I'm quite looking forward to the day where I'm just doing one thing, particularly the vineyard, because, at that size I can do everything all year round, and then the making's quite easy. But who knows, if Junior or Junior want to take over the other stuff, they can. But we're some years away from not continuing. Sure. But that's always...
How does the site there at Yea Valley at Sparkletown compare to Denton?
It's different. So it's a hotter daytime temperature, cooler nights. We're elevated there. We're at 370 metres. It's certainly more weather out of central Victoria because you're on the fringe there. Yeah. But we're just south enough and just close enough to Kinglake and the Yarra where we still get enough rain to get us there. The soil is harder soil. So, granite is hard, right? But this is more rocky and gravelly and certainly tougher growing conditions. And I think we're going to end up, because of the site, but because of the establishment of the vineyard, unirrigated from day one was a must, A bit like large old oak is the only way to make wine, or our wines, put it that way. Unirrigated was only the only way that I ever wanted to do it. And I think that's important because we will end up with quite smaller plants and smaller fruit, and I think thicker berries and a darker version of this that's more muscular and backward. And I'm hoping one day I'll be able to slide a glass across to you, Tom, and say, you need to give it 20 years, Tom. It's going to be like that.
It's like
this is having said that needs 5 or 8 years. It's quite immediate and it's trying to drink now if it can. But I'm quite looking forward to making that very backward version of Nebbiolo that I've always loved drinking. And I think we'll be able to do that. But ask me again in 2040 or something like that.
All right, mate. Well, we'll sit down in 5 years' time when you're rolling out the first wines, and
5 years, is it? What's that
do
look
this
like?
again.
2030. All right, I'll be back.
seems a long way away. That'll be the next trip to Sydney.
Alrighty. All right.
We'll come down in the meantime and see
Come
you.
down in the meantime.
Mate, it's always so good to see you and catch up.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks again, mate. No, for
we
everything.
love it.
Different drops the best. So thanks.
It's true. It's a fact. So is Luke Land Wines. Mate, thank you. All the best. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man.
Cheers, guys. Bye.